So got up this morning, hearing the bilge pump. When we checked it, we saw that the generator was now having another problem.
What we're checking is the heat exchanger. Excuse me.
Okay. Both bilges are filled with rusty water, but the top of the engine is not. So after some investigation and starting the generator, we found that the leak was on one of the elbows
Of the heat exchanger.
Yep. So we'll have to take this apart again and see what we can do to seal it up. So what's wrong?
The other end's in really bad shape too.
So what is our proposed solution for fixing it? For the moment, at least.
We don't have a generator. We have to live without a generator. We don't have a stove. That's the way it is.
Well, how do we plan on fixing it?
We have to get it out in any case.
Exactly. Then once we get it out, we might be able to investigate and see what we can do to fix it. Like the last time we took this thing off, Dad had to do it by feel.
A mess to clean up.
How many more hoses are on there?
There's 2 more hoses on here.
So there's 4 hoses total.
Yeah. Can I have that black thing to sit on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pitted in there. Okay, so if I had lab metal.
Do you have?
We could put lab metal in there.
Do we have lab metal?
We can't peat it.
In interest to get the generator going, we have decided to try some of a different kind of JB Weld kind of thing.
A different kind of epoxy putty.
This one's supposed to be a high temperature epoxy putty. If we get this right, hopefully we should be able to use the generator.
At least for a few days.
Yeah, for long enough for Mom to get something and get back. Interestingly crumbly.
I know, that's not good.
Yeah, that's a big hole.
So it's leaking 2 places.
Well, we suspected as much. What can we do about the smaller hole, about the larger hole?
No, I couldn't fix that one before.
Take it off, then layer JB Weld over it and under it.
Okay, the zinc is still there. I don't have any choice but epoxy. Get out the acetone.
Acetone? Got it. Oh, we're using the G-Flex this time.
I want something a little more flexible.
We've got a new part on order, but what we've got to do is patch this thing up so we can survive until we get back.
It's only got to last a week. We did a video a while back where we repaired this. For those of you that don't know, it had been for a very long time in the generator and the zinc hadn't been replaced, and so the copper right here was all eaten away. And what we did, I don't think you can see it here, but we put a copper plate on here, and we brazed on the copper plate to cover the holes. Well, there were a couple little holes that needed to be filled, and what happened was the brazing rod corroded faster than the zinc. We do have a new zinc in here. The zinc has been there for a year. It's still good, but it's getting to the time we need to replace it. But the softer metal of the brazing rod did in fact eat through. So we had two holes. We had one here, right at that seam, and we had a little pinhole right here. Now, the little pinhole was from the earlier corrosion problem, and it just gave way. So I was spitting raw water straight up in a little stream from the pinhole. So what we did was I filled the inside of here with epoxy, and that should cover up the roughness that was the corroded copper. I don't think it's going to last forever. We do have another one on order. It'll be here in a couple weeks. So I only need to get through a couple of weeks with this thing. I don't like to take it apart and put it back together because it's such a pain to do. So we might leave it there longer till it fails again. But what I'm really worried about is this joint right here. This is what was leaking the most. So what we're going to do is we've already epoxied it, and the epoxy is drying. It's almost dry now. What we're going to do is we're going to fiberglass about half of this. We're just going to coat the whole thing in epoxy.
Mind you, we don't have fiberglass sheets.
Right.
So, what we're going to do...
we're going to use a rice bag. This stuff is extremely strong.
And it's fibrous as all get out.
So we're going to use this as our cloth instead of fiberglass. I'm going to cut it into pieces, and we're going to basically epoxy with the fiber about half of this, so that if it does leak, it won't leak very far. Now, the good thing about a heat exchanger is it's not under a lot of pressure, at least not the raw water side. The antifreeze side is under a fair bit of pressure, but that's all good. It's only the raw water side where we had a problem, and the raw water is not under pressure. So I'm pretty sure that this epoxy is going to hold, but in case it doesn't, I want to have something to support it. You can see a little bit better now this edge where you can see where we had the copper plate, and the brazing between the copper plate and the copper itself is doing fine. It was only the place where we had to fill a hole that had a problem.
We're going to do a couple layers of it at least.
Yep, we'll do several layers. We're going to wrap it really tight and then epoxy it. We have to do this fairly quick because this is 5-minute epoxy.
And round two.
Okay, so here's our ugly finished heat exchanger. We have 2 layers of material and 3 layers of epoxy together. It was a total mess to make, but I think that it's going to hold for long enough for us to get a new one. The little pieces of epoxy that I put here to fill the hole, they won't be able to push out now. This is cotton impregnated with epoxy. I've done a lot of this before using blue jeans, old blue jean material encased in epoxy. Makes for a very tough, strong fabric.
It does.
You can add a lot of strength to something by just simply putting epoxy on cloth. I've used this to make my own reinforced rubber hoses. I did some of this. I had a hydraulic line that broke, and I wrapped it in epoxy cloth like this, reinforced epoxy, and then I put another layer of butyl rubber around it and sealed it all, so that I made my own, fiber reinforced rubber. And that held for about 3 months.
Yeah, and that's under a pressure system.
Yeah, that was hydraulic. That was a hydraulic hose. The hydraulic hose, by the way, when it did fail, it didn't fail at my repair. It failed further down the hose. So that's enough for now. Hopefully we'll be able to use the stove again soon. Our stove runs off the generator, so we can't cook any hot food until we get this fixed. See y'all next time. It's 11 o'clock at night, and we're just done, and it's running. Hey everybody. So as you know, we have a heat exchanger on our generator that's not doing so well. We released a video about a temporary repair that we put in. It's been running fine for the last few days, but we ordered something just in case, and it came in. Just today we received one, and it came in from a company called Boxpack that we can get shipments to the Dominican Republic in. So this should be our new heat exchanger. We're not going to put it in right away. We're going to let the old one go as long as it can, but we are going to have this one on. Ah, look at that. We're going to have it on hand. So we got this from Mr. Cool Marine Products in Michigan, and we called them on the phone. They were extremely helpful. They said, send us a picture. We sent them a picture, and they had it in stock. He was familiar with it, and they had it ready for us in 10 minutes. They mailed it that day, and we just got it. Now we wait. We see how long the temporary fix lasts. Hey folks, like, subscribe, tell your friends. It really does help, and it helps the channel grow. It helps us get higher in the search engines. And if you do feel like you can, please donate and help us out on the journey and help us restore this boat. We have a Patreon link. We also have a PayPal link on our website.